Rise up. Can you hear it? That whisper inside your chest, shaking the bones, rattling the quiet parts of your mind you've been trying to ignore. It's not just a suggestion. It's a command. You've been hiding, shrinking, blending in, pretending your fire wasn't meant to burn so bright. But now, the universe itself is screaming at you to stand, to show up, to let the world see what happens when someone refuses to stay small. They've been waiting, you've been waiting, and now it's time. Every doubt, every fear, every quiet apology for taking up space, it's over. Rise up and let all of them witness what it looks like when someone finally chooses to claim what was theirs all along. Your time to step into your power is now. Do you feel it? That restless energy in your chest, that heat crawling up your spine, the jitter in your hands that tells you something is about to change. You've been waiting, holding back, tiptoeing around life as if the world might collapse if you finally stretched your limbs and claimed the space you've always deserved. But the truth is, the world won't collapse. It will react. It will notice. And that reaction, that undeniable awareness, will be the first sign that your rise cannot be ignored. You've spent too long listening to the whispers of doubt, letting fear dictate your steps, pretending that safety and invisibility are worth more than the raw, chaotic, unapologetic power inside you. But now, something is stirring, and it refuses to be contained. Step into your power, and everything changes. The air shifts. People feel it before you even speak. You become magnetic, not because you're loud, but because you're alive in a way that can't be hidden. Every step you take becomes a statement. Every glance, a signal that you've crossed a threshold, that the version of you who shrinks and hesitates is no longer in control. And it terrifies some, inspires others. But most importantly, it awakens something inside you that you've been starving for proof that you can command your life, your presence, your destiny. Power isn't given. It isn't a reward. It's claimed. And claiming it requires you to stop pretending you are small. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop deferring to a world that would rather you stay invisible. Every second you hesitate, someone else is trying to claim the space that was meant for you. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you shrink, the world keeps moving. Opportunities keep slipping, and the energy that could have been yours is absorbed by those too bold to wait. Stepping into your power is about reclaiming what is inherently yours, about acknowledging that the life you imagine is not a dream reserved for others. It is yours to take, yours to shape, yours to live. And that act alone, that conscious decision to rise, will shake the foundations of every expectation that has ever tried to cage you. Power isn't just about dominance. It's about presence. It's about the way your energy rearranges the room without a single word, how your focus sharpens perception, how your conviction bends circumstance toward possibility. When you rise, you don't just change your trajectory, you change the way everyone around you perceives reality. People will whisper, stare, envy, admire, and question, but none of it will matter because you know the truth. Your life is no longer subject to their comfort, their opinion, their control. You are moving in alignment with something far bigger than the hesitation that has held you down, something far greater than the fear that once told you to step back, something that demands you stand tall and unapologetic. Rising up is also terrifying because it forces confrontation with your own limitations. You will see weaknesses, insecurities, and failures you've buried under layers of distraction and avoidance. And the paradox is exquisite. You can either let them define you, let them chain you to the old version of yourself, or you can face them, acknowledge them, and use them as fuel to propel you higher. The process is uncomfortable, chaotic, messy, but it is necessary. Every person who has ever risen into power has had to stare down their own doubts and fears and choose to act anyway. To rise is to embrace discomfort, to dance with the chaos inside, and to allow it to sharpen you rather than shatter you. When you finally choose to step into your power, everything around you begins to reflect it. Opportunities appear, not by coincidence, but because energy attracts energy. People who doubted you will start noticing, not because they respect you yet, but because the force you carry cannot be ignored. Your decisions become more precise, your voice more authoritative, your presence more commanding. And that is just the beginning. The ripple effect of rising isn't contained to your life alone. It touches everyone who has been waiting for an example, everyone who needs permission to claim their own power, everyone who has been afraid to stand because they feared judgment, failure, or ridicule. Rising up is contagious. It spreads like fire, like electricity, like the inevitable tide that refuses to be stopped. And when you finally claim your power, when you finally decide to live unapologetically, you are no longer alone. Witnesses will emerge, drawn to your energy, inspired by your courage, compelled by the audacity of your action. The world doesn't reward quiet compliance. It notices bold defiance. It responds to unstoppable momentum. It reacts to people who refuse to be contained, who refuse to shrink, who refuse to defer their light to the dimness others prefer. So step into your power, because there is no better time than now, no better version of yourself waiting to emerge, and no force in existence capable of stopping the momentum of someone who has finally chosen to rise. Standing tall inspires others to rise with you. Have you ever noticed the ripple effect of presence? The way one person's courage, one person's audacity, one person's refusal to shrink can unsettle the very fabric of complacency around them. It starts small, almost imperceptible. A shift in posture, a sharper tone, a decision that defies expectation. And suddenly, the air changes. People feel it before they understand it. They watch you move, and something stirs inside them, a whisper, a spark, a question they've been too afraid to ask themselves. What if I could do the same? Standing tall isn't just an act of visibility. It's a signal, a declaration, a silent invitation for others to step out of the shadows and claim their own space. The paradox of influence is that it often begins unintentionally. You don't stand tall to inspire. You stand tall because something inside refuses to shrink any longer. And in that refusal, others begin to mirror you, even if unconsciously. Your confidence becomes contagious. Your audacity becomes a model. And every step you take, every choice you make, every risk you embrace, becomes a mirror reflecting the potential that exists in those around you. People have been waiting for someone to show them what's possible, to breach the invisible boundaries of fear and doubt, and your rise becomes proof. Your stance, your focus, your refusal to settle, these are not just personal victories. They are silent instructions to anyone watching that limitation is optional, that courage is contagious, that power is not reserved for the few, but claimed by those willing to reach for it. But standing tall is not comfortable. It is raw. It is exposure. It forces confrontation with every insecurity, every doubt, every scar you've carried in silence. People notice when someone dares to live unashamedly. Some admire, some resent, some fear. And that's part of the process. The way you hold yourself, the clarity in your gaze, the unspoken authority in your movement, it unsettles those who have built their lives on conformity. They expect obedience. They expect compliance. They expect quiet. When you defy it, when you rise, when you claim your space unapologetically, the reaction can be intense. But intensity is not weakness. It is evidence. Evidence that your presence is alive, that your energy is undeniable, that your movement carries weight beyond your own imagination. And here's the secret: the more you rise, the more others feel permission to rise. Standing tall creates a vacuum that draws people out of hiding. People who have been shrinking, settling, pretending they are content, suddenly find themselves questioning their own limitations. Your actions, your courage, your refusal to compromise becomes a template they cannot ignore. They start to take risks. They start to speak. They start to move in directions they once believed were forbidden. Inspiration is not about speeches or lectures. It is about the raw, undeniable proof that someone dared, that someone risked, that someone refused to be small. And standing tall is the loudest form of that proof. There will be resistance, of course. People who are threatened by your ascent, who fear the disruption of their own comfort, who cannot bear the idea that someone else's rise makes them feel invisible, will try to dim your light. They will whisper, they will question, they will attempt to shame. But their resistance is meaningless against momentum. The energy of someone standing in their power, moving deliberately, living without apology, cannot be contained. It cuts through doubt. It breaks barriers. It destabilizes stagnation. And every time you refuse to step back, every time you resist their attempts to shrink you, every time you assert your presence, you reinforce the silent message: rise, because you can, because you deserve, because power is contagious. The act of standing tall is also a confrontation with your own internal resistance. Fear, hesitation, old wounds, insecurities, they all push back. They whisper that it is safer to blend in, that it is wiser to wait, that it is easier to shrink. But each time you rise despite them, each time you push past doubt, you carve a path not just for yourself, but for those watching, for those waiting for someone to prove that bravery is possible, that audacity is effective, that presence matters. Your life becomes a beacon, a signal flare, a living testament to what happens when someone refuses to defer to fear. Standing tall is more than posture. It is a declaration, a movement, a contagious force. Every gesture, every step, every decision broadcasts a message. You are allowed to exist fully, unapologetically, powerfully. And as you rise, as you refuse to hide, as you claim your rightful space in the world, others will feel compelled to rise with you, pulled by the gravity of courage, the energy of presence, the undeniable proof that when one stands, many can follow. Every fear you overcome becomes proof of your strength. It's strange how fear can feel so heavy, so suffocating, like a weight pressing down on your chest, yet the very act of facing it, of staring it straight in the eyes, transforms that weight into power. Fear has a funny way of convincing you that you're smaller than you are, that the world is bigger than you, that the risks outweigh the rewards. But every time you confront it, every time you refuse to let it dictate your steps, you prove something undeniable, not to them, not to the world, but to yourself, that you are stronger than the doubts, braver than the hesitation, sharper than the uncertainty. Strength is not something given. It is forged in the heat of facing the very things that terrify you. Think about the moments when fear whispered that you couldn't, that you shouldn't, that stepping forward would be dangerous, foolish, or impossible. And yet, here you are, still moving, still breathing, still standing. Each decision to act in spite of that fear chips away at its hold over you. Every time you take a step into the unknown, You carve proof into reality itself. You are capable, resilient, unstoppable. The world may not notice immediately, but your own body, your own mind, your own energy registers the shift. You become someone who cannot be easily shaken, someone whose presence carries weight because they have already danced with their own shadows and refused to falter. Fear thrives in isolation, in quiet, in hesitation. It grows in the pauses, the overthinking, the moments when you let what-ifs run wild in your mind. But courage is contagious. The act of confronting fear, of taking action despite trembling hands or racing heart, broadcasts a signal to the universe. I will not be stopped. And the more you do it, the less fear has power over you. The more you transform it into fuel, into energy, into momentum that propels you further than you thought possible. Each confrontation with fear becomes a building block, a stone in the foundation of your strength. There will always be challenges, obstacles, people, circumstances that try to amplify your fear, to convince you to retreat, to whisper that the world is too dangerous or that you are too weak, and that is where the real proof comes in. Strength is measured not in comfort but in confrontation. Every time you act despite trembling hands, despite racing thoughts, despite uncertainty, you make a statement, silent, powerful, unassailable, that you are no longer a prisoner of your own hesitation. Fear is temporary, strength is permanent, and each step you take through the fire of fear leaves an imprint that cannot be erased. What's remarkable is that overcoming fear does not just prove strength to yourself. It becomes visible to others. People notice when someone refuses to shrink, when someone refuses to give in to doubt, when someone chooses action over hesitation. Your courage becomes a benchmark, a signal flare, a living proof that fear is optional, that power is available, that strength is cultivated through movement rather than waiting. And even if they try to minimize it, even if they whisper doubts behind your back, even if they attempt to undermine you, the evidence of your strength is in every decision you made in spite of what terrified you. Strength grows exponentially. One fear overcome leads to another, each step building confidence, each confrontation solidifying resilience, each victory proving that the limits were never real. And it is addictive in the best possible way, the rush of action, the clarity of movement, the quiet knowing that nothing external can shake the foundation you've built inside yourself. Fear becomes a tool, a marker of growth, a measuring stick for the courage you are willing to cultivate. And the more you face, the more unstoppable you become, the more undeniable your presence, the more unshakable your resolve. Every fear you conquer is also a message to those watching. It is a signal that hesitation is optional, that power is available, that audacity is rewarded. It is proof that life is not meant to be tiptoed through quietly, but to be lived fully, boldly, unapologetically. The evidence is written in your posture, your decisions, your energy, your relentless forward motion. You have faced what frightened you most and survived. You have chosen action over paralysis, presence over hiding, reality over illusion. And that choice, repeated again and again, becomes the undeniable proof of your strength, an energy that radiates outward and leaves no doubt that you are capable, you are formidable, and you are rising. Your presence is a declaration of your purpose. It isn't just the way you walk, the way you hold your head, the way your eyes glint with a quiet fire. It's something deeper, something that pulses through every decision you make, every risk you take, every step you dare to take where others hesitate. Presence is not merely being. It is existing with an intensity that cannot be ignored, an energy that demands attention without asking for permission. It's the difference between living a life that blends into the background and living a life that reshapes the landscape around you. And when your presence aligns with your purpose, it becomes unstoppable, magnetic, undeniable. Purpose has a way of sharpening presence. When you are clear about why you exist, about what you are here to do, the way you carry yourself changes. You no longer move in hesitation, no longer shrink in fear, no longer apologize for occupying space. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every action you take becomes a piece of evidence, proof to the world and yourself that you are here for a reason. And the irony is exquisite. The more fully you inhabit that space, the more people notice, the more they are drawn to your energy, and the more the world bends to the force of someone who knows why they exist. Presence aligned with purpose is also a challenge. It exposes you. It forces confrontation with the parts of yourself you've ignored, the doubts you've hidden, the fear that has whispered in your ear for too long. People notice that exposure, even when you don't realize it. Some will admire, some will resent, some will fear. And that is the paradox. True presence threatens those who have grown comfortable with mediocrity, who have accepted shadows as their reality, who have settled for quiet existence over audacious living. Your energy becomes a signal flare, a reminder that life is meant to be claimed, not tiptoed through, and that standing with purpose is louder than any words could ever be. The power of presence is contagious. When someone moves through life with clarity, with intention, with unshakable focus, it challenges everyone around them to reconsider their own stance. People unconsciously mirror strength. They sense authority without it being announced. They feel conviction without it being demanded. And what starts as a quiet ripple soon spreads, touching those who have been waiting for someone to prove that living fully, boldly, unapologetically is possible. Your presence becomes proof that the world responds to authenticity, to audacity, to alignment between action and purpose. But presence is not granted. It is claimed. It is a daily, moment-to-moment choice to stand fully in who you are, to speak boldly when others stay silent, to act decisively when hesitation is easier. It requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. You cannot align with purpose while hiding, while shrinking, while allowing fear or doubt to dictate your steps. The moment you choose to inhabit your presence fully, every action, every gesture, every breath becomes a statement. I am here. I matter. I have a reason. And the world cannot help but notice. There is also a defensive aspect to presence. People will test it, question it, challenge it. They will attempt to pull you back into obscurity, to diminish your energy, to undermine your purpose. And yet, true presence withstands these tests. It does not bend to external pressure. It does not shrink in the face of criticism. It does not falter under scrutiny. Presence aligned with purpose is a force field, a declaration, a constant, unwavering signal that you exist in service of something bigger than temporary opinions, fleeting judgments, or shallow expectations. Your presence communicates what words cannot. It shows people who you are before you speak, what you value before you declare it, how you move through life before you explain your choices. It carries authority, magnetism, and inevitability. And the deeper your purpose, the more unshakable your presence becomes. People will feel it, whether they consciously recognize it or not. They will react, some with admiration, some with resistance. But all will register the reality. You are operating at a level that commands acknowledgement, that influences energy, that shifts perception. So claim your presence. Live each moment as a declaration of your purpose. Step fully into the life you were meant to inhabit. Every movement, every decision, every breath aligns you with a force larger than fear, larger than hesitation, larger than the limitations others have tried to impose. Presence becomes power, purpose becomes proof, and the world begins to witness, whether it is ready or not, the undeniable truth of someone who refuses to be invisible, someone who refuses to shrink, someone who refuses to let their life go unnoticed. Let your actions speak louder than their doubts. There's a subtle kind of power in movement, in doing, in creating, in stepping where others hesitate. Words are fleeting, promises are fragile, but action is tangible. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be dismissed. It cannot be erased. People will talk, they will speculate, they will judge, but the reality of what you do will always outlast their opinions. Every step you take toward your purpose, every risk you embrace despite fear, every choice you make in alignment with your goals sends a signal louder than any argument, louder than any explanation, louder than any whisper behind your back. Doubt is a constant companion, both from within and from the outside. People will doubt your capacity, your courage, your timing, your vision, and even your own mind will whisper questions, second guess, and tempt hesitation. But action cuts through it all. Action transforms possibility into reality, whispers into proof, and hesitation into momentum. Each time you act despite doubt, you demonstrate not only to the world, but also to yourself, that your strength and determination outweigh every fear, every criticism, every uncertainty. It is in action that belief becomes visible, that courage becomes tangible, that destiny starts to shift in your favor. The beauty of letting action speak is that it bypasses resistance. Words can be argued, intentions can be questioned, but movement consistent, deliberate, fearless movement cannot be denied. People will notice the results, even if they refuse to acknowledge the effort. They will feel the impact, even if they do not understand it. Your energy, your drive, your refusal to pause in fear or hesitation creates a force field that others cannot penetrate with doubt or opinion. Action commands attention. Action reshapes reality. Action leaves a trace that cannot be erased, and it leaves no room for anyone to question your determination, your purpose, or your capability. Action also reveals authenticity. People can sense when someone is speaking from noise, from ego, from superficial desire. But when you act, when your choices align with your vision, when you step deliberately into what you want despite obstacles, authenticity radiates from every movement. And authenticity cannot be faked, cannot be hidden, cannot be ignored. It resonates with those who matter, influences those who hesitate, and challenges those who doubt. The proof is in the doing, in the visible, undeniable steps that transform intention into reality. Each action builds momentum. One decision to move forward, one step into the unknown, one risk embraced, compounds into progress, into confidence, into inevitability. Doubt is weakened by repeated movement. Fear is diminished by consistent courage, and the whispers of skeptics are drowned out by the undeniable evidence of your progress. The more you act, the more unstoppable you become, the more your presence demands acknowledgement, and the more your results validate every ounce of effort you have invested. Let action speak, because it silences distraction. It eliminates hesitation. It dissolves the noise of fear, the murmurs of critics, the paralyzing effects of overthinking. When you choose to act, you take control. You assert authority over your life, over your purpose, over your destiny. You no longer wait for permission approval, or validation. You move, and in moving, you command reality to respond to your energy, to your vision, to your determination. There will be resistance, of course. People will attempt to interpret your actions through the lens of their limitations. They will doubt your strategy, question your timing, speculate on your motives. But none of this matters, because the evidence is in the doing. Every step you take, every move you make, every risk you embrace creates a ripple that cannot be denied, a footprint that cannot be erased, a proof that speaks louder than their whispers ever could. Action is contagious. When you move boldly, decisively, unapologetically, it challenges those around you to do the same. It creates a momentum that spreads, inspiring others to rise, to act, to confront their own fears, to claim their own space. Your actions are not just proof to yourself, they are a signal to the world that courage is possible, that power is attainable, that hesitation is optional. Every deliberate step you take becomes a story, a lesson, a beacon, demonstrating the undeniable truth that doing, moving, acting is the ultimate declaration of strength and intent. So let your actions speak. Let them be louder than doubts, stronger than criticism, bolder than fear. Step forward consistently, move decisively, create relentlessly. Let every choice, every risk, every effort broadcast the reality of your power, the clarity of your purpose, the inevitability of your rise, and the undeniable proof that your life is not defined by whispers or limitations, but by the force of your unstoppable, relentless action. Witnessing begins the moment you stop shrinking. It's remarkable how the world waits for someone to refuse to hide, to step forward into the space that has always belonged to them, to declare their presence without apology. Shrinking, hiding, pretending that you are less than you are, may have felt safe, but safety is an illusion. The moment you stop deferring, the moment you stop retreating, the moment you stop excusing your own existence, something shifts. People notice energy. They feel it before they see it. They sense intention before it manifests in action. And when you refuse to shrink, when you decide to occupy your rightful space, the world begins to witness the force you have carried quietly inside you all along. Shrinking has been a habit, a survival mechanism, a way to avoid conflict, judgment, and exposure. But growth, influence, and purpose cannot thrive in hiding. Life responds to movement, to energy, to presence. Every time you shrink, you delay not only your own destiny, but the ripple effect your courage could create. Witnessing begins when you act boldly, when you embrace discomfort, when you step into the unknown with the audacity to trust yourself. And it begins internally. First, the internal acknowledgement that you are done hiding, done apologizing, done pretending to be small so others feel comfortable. That is where the first ripple starts. And from that ripple, the external world cannot help but react. There will be resistance. People will try to contain you, to label you, to project their own fear and limitations onto your life. They will whisper, judge, and attempt to manipulate perception. But their reactions are merely proof that your energy is real, that your presence cannot be ignored, that your choice to stop shrinking has created waves in a pond that had long been stagnant. Witnessing is born not from approval, but from undeniable reality. The undeniable reality that someone has chosen to live fully, without compromise, without hesitation, without apology. And that reality cannot be silenced, cannot be hidden, cannot be diminished. When you stop shrinking, you also stop waiting. Waiting for permission, waiting for validation, waiting for the right moment that may never come. The moment you claim your space, claim your voice, claim your energy, you step into a current that propels you forward regardless of external conditions. People begin to watch, not necessarily because they want to, but because the energy you radiate demands attention. Witnessing is inevitable when you refuse to hide. Every confident step, every deliberate choice, every bold decision sends a signal that cannot be ignored. This is me, unapologetic and unstoppable. The process is also internal. Witnessing begins within the mind and body. As you recognize your own value, your own capability, your own power, you stop shrinking, not just physically or externally, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You shed the self-imposed limits, the insecurities, the fears that have kept you small, and in shedding them, you create an internal magnetism that draws attention, that inspires recognition, that compels the world to pay attention. The internal act of refusing to shrink manifests externally, inevitably, and powerfully. Every time you refuse to shrink, you rewrite the rules. You challenge norms, expectations, and assumptions. You create a new narrative where courage is visible, audacity is contagious, and presence is undeniable. Others begin to witness not only your energy, but also the possibility that they too can rise. They too can claim their space. They too can step out of the shadows that have constrained them. Your life becomes a reference point, a proof, a mirror reflecting the audacity they have been too afraid to express. Witnessing spreads because it is magnetic. Energy cannot be contained when it is authentic and unapologetic. Fear will attempt to pull you back. Doubt will whisper that you are too much, too bold, too visible. Criticism will try to convince you that shrinking is safer, quieter, better. And yet, every moment you resist, every moment you continue to act, to show, to exist fully, reinforces the truth that witnessing is unstoppable once you refuse to shrink. Presence becomes proof, courage becomes contagious, energy becomes undeniable, and your life becomes a signal that can neither be ignored nor diminished. Witnessing begins in small moments. A bold word, a decisive step, a refusal to retreat, a demonstration of your unique power. And as these moments accumulate, they create a force that cannot be contained. People will see, energy will react, influence will spread, and the world will acknowledge your existence, not because they were asked to, but because your refusal to shrink commands recognition. Every choice to live fully, every step into your own power, every act of unapologetic presence builds momentum, amplifies your energy, and ensures that witnessing begins, grows, and spreads in ways that are inevitable, unstoppable, and profoundly transformative.